see if this was going to work. Okay, we are live. So this is welcome to the Zoom test kitchen. Officially, the stream is starting a few minutes late, so sorry about that. But I'm going to be standing in for Jeff again this week. He's out on the road, involved in some projects, but he'll be back next week. At the moment, he is actually on location with the OH Space project, and I believe in a following Zoom test kitchen, he'll be doing some of the behind-the-scenes insight into some of that work. So that'll be exciting at a future date, but he's involved in that right now. So I'm going to be here once again, trying to keep things moving along. So welcome, everyone. Good to see. If there's anybody there not with their cameras on, you're welcome to come forward, but also welcome to watch also. So welcome to those that are here, Bill and Lois and Leland. How are we all doing?
I'm great. On Zoom, Rupert, is there anything new that happened in the last week or so? I wasn't here last week. I totally missed it for some reason.
Yeah, so I've actually just the last couple of days, I've seen a lot of maintenance alerts coming through. I haven't looked at those in too much depth yet, but I do know I have seen quite a big release that's coming up. So it's maybe not one that's hit just yet. But on the 20-something, I'll just check those notes. 20-something of this month, there's quite a decent change coming up. Is it the 19th, March 19th? No, it's maybe the one before that.
I was looking at the release notes. Yeah. I got an email yesterday, and the two things that caught my eye were Backstage.
Yep.
But it sounds like you have to have events license versus a webinar license.
Interesting. I knew that feature was coming down the pipe.
And then the second thing was the backgrounds. To be able to upload custom backgrounds to kind of create your own template.
Right. But this is I think this is still a future release coming out on the March 20.
Yeah, they said I think the new client is available. In fact, I had to update stuff to get into this meeting.
Right. Yeah.
But having said that, they have to roll out certain hardware for the Backstage, which was one of my questions. Is I'm wondering if limiting Backstage to events license is because of capacity issues, or if that's going to be a permanent requirement. And then my second question on Backstage is, does it give in the Backstage, do you see the chat and questions?
In Backstage. So
you want to define what Backstage is?
My understanding of it is a feature. Again, I thought it was going to be embedded into webinar, but it is a way of, in a webinar, it sounds like it may just be in an events webinar, but in a webinar having a separate meeting, although it'll be part of the same webinar, sort of behind the scenes for the panelists to congregate, kind of like a green room.
I was going to say, it's like a permanent green room.
Yeah, exactly. And then they have the option to sort of go on stage and come back off stage.
And you could almost think of it like a hidden breakout room.
Mm-hmm. And is it something that's going to have its own separate comms? I mean, its own separate audio?
I believe if you're in that room backstage,
mm-hmm.
you'll be in essentially a sort of meeting or a breakout room. So you'll have the people in there will have open audio between themselves. And I think there is a way, I believe, of being able to monitor the video and probably the audio from the main room or the stage, I guess you'd call it.
So that's like piping in a camera to the green room so that the people know when it's their turn or getting ready or whatever. Yeah.
I always interpreted it as a extension or a sort of natural progression of the practice session that was available in webinar. That would enable your panelists to congregate before the event started. So they would have a separate place to go in and practice, essentially, while the attendees could still accumulate without connecting the two. And then when your event went live, then it kind of merged the two. I always thought Backstage was going to be almost like a permanent practice session, a permanent parallel event or component where your panelists could.
So it sounds
And
like
Rupert-
next week is going to be a busy Zoom test kitchen with all this new stuff.
Could well be. There's plenty of other bits and pieces coming through on that same release too on March 20th. So this weekend, and like we just said, some of these features get released in the client in preparedness for the feature coming later, like on the platform, and so it'll just be interesting to see when that feature is fully accessible. It may be now, but that was just trying to see where it does say about events. It does say requires the events license.
So that's going to be a pretty limited audience.
Yeah, well, yes and no. I mean, I don't know how exactly it's going these days, but the pricing for Zoom events, at least at the entry level capacity levels, was very competitive with webinars. So if it was a new customer, a new user looking to get into webinar, at the lower levels, the pricing is very similar. So it's quite compelling that they would most likely go for the events license because it's not much more expensive and go that way. So, but I do wonder whether even if you have the events license, whether you have to then form your webinar as an entire event to be able to use that feature, or whether you could use the webinar element of your Zoom events license as a
Pretty
standalone
sure
webinar.
You can use it either way, Rupert, where you
Yeah.
can use it as a webinar or as an event system, because you're paying an extra $200 a year, Annam, over that normal webinar feature price. And what it basically says is that with your purchase of Zoom events, you will be able to schedule webinars in the webinar portal with all the benefits of that, which come with Zoom webinar license. So I suspect you have basically webinar with an added feature for events,
Right.
is what it really comes down
And you don't necessarily have to set up an event in order to use your
Yes,
webinar license.
that's correct.
Yeah, that's cool. The challenge is there. I think the price does get dramatically different as you go higher up in the capacity.
Oh yeah, over 500
Right.
for sure.
Yeah. So it becomes a bigger difference, but I think they've just made it quite a compelling choice at the lower levels. But
For 500 is not bad though. That's about averages out to around $75 a month, which honestly is more than adequate priced for what you get as an event system.
right. And I don't know what the latest information is, but I heard earlier on that Zoom events come sort of with 1080p as by default. Has anybody
I'm
heard
pretty
that?
sure it does. Yeah.
Right. So that's another, which, in a regular webinar wouldn't
take a look,
necessarily
though.
do that unless you sort of go through a lot of hoops and things. So
That is a good question though. I would think it might still be relevant on which account you hold, because that's not like an advancement from a pro to a business or enterprise level account. That's simply a feature set enhancement.
right.
So you may have to still have a business account to get the 1080p.
Yeah. So what's your experience of trying to, in terms of webinar, trying to run a meeting most like a webinar? Have you?
You mean to fake a webinar using a meeting?
Yeah, or to keep a meeting. I mean, to keep a meeting under control in terms of a large audience or a lot of attendees, and
Well, were
trying to get a large meeting to act as close as possible to a webinar.
Were you here when I reported on the activities of that 500 plus Quaker worship meeting that got Zoom bombed?
No.
That's terrible. I always hate to hear about Zoom bombs.
Well, I mean, I can tell you again if you want, or you can just go listen to the previous recording. Up to you. But since then, things have been very good, and we have kept things under control. We have not had to completely turn off cameras. We have not turned off the ability to get into the meeting, because there's people from all over the world, and some of them, if we required registration, they wouldn't be able to get in because they're like going to the little local library and getting on a browser, and they don't even have a Zoom account or anything. So we haven't done the extreme security that you would do if you were doing a commercial event. You would register. People would have to pay to get in, all this other stuff. So what we've done is during the meeting, we turn off rename, we turn off what do you call that thing?
Camera, video?
No, that thing.
Oh, the profile picture. Yeah.
Thank you. I can never remember these words. So we turn off profile picture, and then we have everyone muted, and they cannot unmute themselves. And so then, and we've gotten rid of all of the reactions except raise hand, because people were going, I'm trying to raise my hand and I can't find it. Well, it was buried in reaction. So we just turned off everything else. So all it says down there is raise hand. And so if someone wants to give ministry, it's a silent worship, and people talk if they need to. And so if they want to give ministry, they raise their digital hand, and then we go and we have a little procedure we go through. I find their name. Of course, raise hand puts them at the top of the list. I find their name, I rename them, and I put a star space in front of their name. And then the clerk asks them to unmute. So if there was someone who was trying to do, yell things at us, they know as soon as they lower their hand, they're lost in 500 people. But I renamed them, so they're not lost anymore. So even if someone tried something, we could get them out of there within, 10 seconds at the max. And so that's what we do to work on things. And there's the clerk who's running the worship part of the meeting. Then there's the host, that's me, who's looking at security and naming and renaming and stuff like that. And then we have several co-hosts who are just scanning through page after page of pictures to see if there's any disruptor that's trying to do something using a video on their screen. And if they are, they can come out and tell us, and then we decide whether or not we're going to lock the room or turn on the waiting room or any of that stuff. So we haven't had to do that yet. But so anyway, that's our process, and I think we just bored them to death. I know that there were disruptors there. One day they got in and a whole bunch of them started yelling, and it took a few minutes to remember what we were supposed to do, but I was really proud of the Quakers, because what they did, as they do anytime they're having a peaceful vigil and people start yelling at them, they just started singing. We all know the same song, so they just started singing, and everybody was singing totally Zoomified. You couldn't hear the disruptors at all. And then we hit the red button, stopped everything, and went back to normal. But anyway, that's the report. And the next day there was one person who was very persistent. This disruptor sat there for 20 minutes into worship. It's an hour-long thing. And then they raised their hand to give ministry. And when they were called on and started yelling, it's like they were gone within 2 seconds. It was like really cool. But we haven't seen any disruption during worship since. The problem that I have, and that's one of the questions I'm going to bring to you today, is that the meeting is the personal ID meeting of somebody. And it's not registered, it's not timed, and it's anybody can come in anytime, because it's, anybody can come in before the host. So Julie and I have been in there talking, doing business, chatting, figuring out about things, and had disruptors come in while we were there. Nobody else was. And when I went in one day, there were like four people there that they weren't part of us. I had gone in the afternoon instead of the morning, so I know it's being used as a hangout or a gathering or a group thing, and I don't know what we can do to make it so that other people can't get in until the host comes or the co-host, because if Julie owns the event, she can always get in. If she sets it so nobody can get in before her, I can't get in and claim host. And we alternate. She's host and I'm host, and so what do you think? Is there a way to make it so that she and I can both get in, but
what springs to mind is it's unfortunate it's been set up as a personal meeting ID, I guess. Is that if
and there's nothing, I mean, we've got people from all over the world now who are coming every day, and
Right, so if those
changing the number, it's way too late for that.
right. Could possibly be done through Zoom. You might be able to ask them I know that kind of thing is possible in special circumstances. You can ask them to migrate meeting IDs to different things. And
Oh, to keep the same number and everything.
Yeah, it's a bit of it's a special request, and I think it's a bit of a heavy lift, but it can be done. I've heard of meeting IDs being, I think, even like migrated to webinars or migrated between accounts, or it can theoretically be done in it may
The
not be
private,
through
you can change that to whatever number, like whatever phone, like my Zoom is my phone number. So if people need to find me in a Zoom, they just basically call my phone number on Zoom and they can get to my Zoom room.
And I got in early enough, I could do that too, but
should just be able to add someone to the account as another user within the account base so that you have the co-host or host access while the other person doesn't. I have several situations where, like when I work for Wallfly, they program all my Zooms for me. I don't do anything. I just wait and then jump into the Zoom. So it's really a matter of the back end, obviously, and making sure you add a user with an email address that is a registered Zoom account so that they can get access to the back end of that account.
I don't believe that is an option with a free account, though.
Right.
Probably not for a free account.
Yeah, it
That's
does need
one of
to
the
be
big drawbacks to that is the ability to maintain the feature sets.
Right. I understand that, but we're sort of dealing with a situation that existed because somebody said, "Oh, I've got to do something," so they did something without a lot of thought as to what could go wrong.
Yeah, like Leland says, the typical way to do it would be what ideally you would want is to be nominated as an alternative host, which is something different. But
I thought alternative host had to be in the same company.
It does need to be on the same Zoom account. Yeah.
Okay.
It needs to be a paid account in the first place, and the alternative host, last I knew, also needs to be a licensed user on that account. So you're not nominally, I don't think you're going to get to a position where you have an alternative host without at least having a paid account with 2 licenses, because you'll need one for the host and one for the alternative host. That's my last.
And they have to be joined. It's like I can't use my paid account as one of the things in hers.
Correct. Yeah, you need to be both on the same
So
Zoom environment.
the other thing I figured is, well, I'll just fake it and pretend to be her.
Well, you can do that. I mean, it's an option. It's not
It's not a good option.
Not necessarily always the advised option. The other way is there is I don't know if you can use host keys on a free account.
Yes. When I go in, there's nobody in the room. I go in, I'm not the host. I use the host key, I claim host, and then I do all the normal host stuff, assigning co-hosts and breakout rooms and all that stuff.
So you have the host key already.
Oh yeah.
But that doesn't enable you to start the meeting.
If the meeting, if it's set so that people come in before the host, yes, I can go in there and I can claim host and I can do it. But if we try to set it so other people can't get in, we tried making a waiting room. From the waiting room, there was nothing that I could do. We tried just saying, wait for the host, but I couldn't. I don't see any way that you can claim host until you're in the room, and you can't get in the room if you said you can't get in before the host. Sort of a catch-22.
Yeah. I don't know of a way to start
I'm
a
on the
meeting with a
back end
host
looking.
key.
The only thing I see that will allow the host key, Rupert, to work would be allowing a Zoom room participant to come in and take control of the meeting.
But it's not a Zoom room.
I know that's all
Yeah.
I'm seeing on the back end right now, though.
Okay. I'm curious about Rupert's idea of possibly moving the number, because if we do that, then we could make a timed meeting and the room would open at a certain time, which means that people couldn't get in before that time. But I could get in at that time and then claim host, right?
That's not a bad idea.
I don't think the meeting will. Don't think the meeting
24-hour
will auto
meeting.
start though.
Pardon?
I don't think the meeting would auto start without somebody starting it.
Really?
Yeah,
If you have the allow users to join before the host, it would.
it would as soon as the first person joined it.
Yeah.
No. As soon as the time allowed a person to join.
Yeah, it would just be the time. But at least that's how we ran webinars when we opened them up for events. We couldn't get into the webinar until the actual event started. Nobody could attend that exact, location, even though we were even hosts. So you'll have to see if you can get into the back end from there.
So can you make a personal meeting a timed event? I don't think you can.
Only by setting a scheduled meeting.
But that's a separate meeting. That's not your personal meeting, isn't it? Or is it?
Oh, yeah.
Can you
Using your
set
personal
a-
meeting key? Yeah, probably.
Yeah,
unlikely.
I mean, is it likely that you'll ever have a paid account involved in this process?
I have the payment isn't isn't the problem. It's that it got started where it is. I'm sure that they could spring for a few bucks to make it a paid account instead of a free account.
Right.
Would that make any difference?
I think it makes the difference because it makes a difference of what level of support you'll get from Zoom. and it does. It's true.
Yeah, it's true.
Right.
It's true.
So
Yes.
if you were to have a paid account and say, hey, look, I've got this extraneous free account that got set up by mistake. I've got a meeting on it, which ultimately we need to host on our paid account. Can you help us and migrate that ID to this account as a scheduled meeting? I would think that would be possible in a paid environment.
So you're saying instead of upgrading the free account to a paid account, create a second separate paid account and then ask them to migrate?
Either way, if the free account has been set up in a way that suits your workflow moving forward and it's in the right company name or whatever, however it's being done, whatever. Sometimes they get set up way off in the distance on a in a way that doesn't suit the organization that's going to pay for it.
Right.
You can usually change everything.
Yeah.
I've gone through a lot of rebranding with my Zoom accounts because I probably have 10 free ones and one paid one.
Right.
But one thing, take a look under your admin panel on the Zoom backend and go to user management under roles and see whether or not you can add any members to their free account with emails to give them the admin role within the system. That may allow them to come in as a host or yourself. If she gives you a role as as a member with admin privileges, you may be able to get in, but it might be something required by a paid account. That's where we were getting at. And that's usually the big difference is what you have access to when it comes to user control and
Okay.
user management.
So how were you getting? Was this event limited to the 40 minutes then, Lois?
Oh no. It goes for almost 2 hours.
So how
Then
are you
somebody
getting that?
has a paid account.
Then how are you getting that on a? That wouldn't. To my
So
knowledge-
maybe she did upgrade to a paid account. Maybe it is a paid account. I'm going to have to ask her.
You can only do 24 hours with two people. If you have any more than that, it's going to be 40 minutes. So if it's
Yeah,
running more than 40
it's not stopping at 40 minutes. And I don't know whether she just bought an extension because you would be limited to 100 people too, and we got over 500. So I know she got an extension for that. So that must be a paid account, isn't it?
Yeah.
it should
Yeah,
be.
because you can't
And
even
then
get
she
the,
should be
you
able
can't
to
get the
add
add-ons
to-
without even a paid account to add.
Okay.
Add on to.
So I am wrong. It was not a free account. It's a paid account. So Let's see what that changes. So we don't have to create a new paid account because we have one. We just want to, okay, the limitation we've got is because it's the personal meeting ID being used instead of it being a created account, a created meeting that we created that is timed. Is that right? Is that my biggest problem?
That shouldn't necessarily, I use my personal ID for every meeting I create. It doesn't have to be that you're locking it. It's really a matter of security. If you want a meeting ID with a passcode, or if you want it with the password encoded into the link so that they don't have to enter a passcode or a phone number type, 10-digit number. I don't even use that feature. I just have the waiting room there waiting so that when people come in your case, you want people to be able to jump past the waiting room, and you can't turn that off. So one thing you could do by turning off the waiting room would be to include a passcode, a 4-digit passcode that everybody knows personally. It's another way to keep trolls out, because then only the members of the society or community have that PIN code. They know the link, but it's not going to get them all the way to the window unless they have that 4 digits. So that might be another way to keep yourself, let them have an open room that they can come in whenever they want because they know the passcode. As long as they don't give that passcode to anybody, you'd have a secure room.
Yeah, I think we're beyond that. There are thousands of people in the world who have the information and have been passing it from one friend's meeting to another, to the Unitarian Church, to the Methodist. It's like, I think we're beyond that.
Too big of an open forum. Yeah, I got it.
Yeah. So back to the timing thing.
I'm looking back here on the back.
If I made it a timed meeting, I'm not sure you can. Leland, do you make yours timed meetings even though you're using your personal code?
Yeah, most of mine are hour-long meetings so that they only fill a certain gap on my calendar. That way I can see my windows of Zoom time that I'm going to be in. If I were to set it for 24 hours, obviously going to fill my whole week of, my whole day on my calendar as one event. So I tend to just make them hour meetings, but you can set that 24 hours right at the beginning as well to put that meeting as a 24-hour clock. So it's
I misspoke. It's not a 24-hour meeting. It's just open.
It's open all the time, but that's what I'm getting at. With free accounts, you couldn't do more than 24 hours anyway. So if somebody was just hanging out in a free meeting, that would close on its own. If she's opening up these meetings and you wanted to be able to get into them, all I was saying is you could have them scheduled as reoccurring meetings that lasted 24 hours each day. And you could get in there when it started at the beginning and open the meeting, but that's just for
right. Can I make so recurring meeting is the phrase I'm looking for.
Yeah.
I mean,
right below the time zone. Yep, there's a little checkbox right below the time zone for that.
Okay, and then so I would have it open for the 3 hours that we're going to use it every morning.
Yeah,
I would have it open at 8:30 so that we can get in there and do stuff beforehand. Meetings at 9, and there's this. And then there's the second hour, and by 11 it should all be done. So opening a recurring meeting does not automatically close it. It stays open as long as there's a host involved, right?
Yeah, so long as there's somebody in it. But if the last person leaves, the meeting will close.
Okay.
Yeah,
and so
go ahead.
So okay, I think that may be my solution, because if I make the recurring meeting not open till a certain time, then I can get in and claim host, or she can get in whenever it opens.
And nobody can jump in like out of the blue in the middle of the day or in the middle of the night because they have a link to that meeting. This will lock that down to that 3-hour, 4-hour time period that you want to put it in.
That is good.
It doesn't match my experience. If you had a meeting that's scheduled, it still needs somebody to start it. In my experience, it doesn't auto start unless you have people can join at any time enabled.
Yeah, that's I think the key is just having that switch on.
Right.
As long as they can join before the host, then somebody else could come in. But I think you still want to look at adding a role as an admin to the back per account, so that you have access to some of the key features you don't have as a non-attached user.
So I'm getting a little confused between Rupert's and Leland's, and so
don't want to confuse.
If I have a timed meeting, then then if I'm not the host, I'm going to get that message waiting for the host to start the meeting. It starts at 10 o'clock or whatever that says, right? And then at 10 o'clock, if I'm not the host, I can get into the meeting because it says you can come in before the host. Or does you can come in before the host override the fact that it's got time on it?
Check. I'm gonna go open
So-
Zoom at another account.
Yeah. So if you had a,
See what happens.
if you had a meeting scheduled at 2 with join before host enabled, if you showed up at 1:55, would it let you in? And
Yeah, that's
shouldn't.
and if it didn't, would it automatically let you in at 2, whether there was a host present or not? I guess that's the.
And that is exactly the question we need to ascertain. So I see Leland over there
Yeah, I'm getting there.
carefully
It'll
making
take
a
me a
new thing. And that means I better go get my iPad so that or my laptop so I can sign in from someplace else. Oh, you're just now leaving?
Question being, which one should I use? I'll use a paid account, I guess. No, this might be a free account. Let me check. It's a basic.
It's interesting. We did mention Zoom Rooms because Zoom Rooms does make this kind of thing a little bit easier, but I don't think you're quite in that world with this project.
All right, so I have a bunch of slated meetings here, but I am going to. Oh, if I do that, that might trick me. I don't know if I'll have access to change that on my account that I'm borrowing. So hold on.
Bill's posted something in the chat here. Can allow participants to join anytime. You can select 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, or any time.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
And Bill, you're muted. I couldn't hear what you said.
I said nothing important. Rupert summarized perfectly.
Yeah, where'd you find that one's under in meeting basic or advanced? As far as what it,
Yeah, I just copy and paste. It doesn't mean I know what I'm doing.
So should I be logging into some other Zoom meeting at this
not
time?
yet.
Not yet. Okay.
I gotta see if I can
I
even
walked away for a
allow-
few minutes. I didn't know what happened.
So sign into the Zoom web portal as administrator, go to account management, account settings. In the meeting tab, verify that allow participants to join before host.
Yep. got
So
it
this
on.
would be an
Oh, there it
account,
is, okay.
an account-wide setting.
So-
Participants can join before the start time.
That's it. Not before the host, but before the start time.
Yeah, 5, 10, or 15
That's-
minutes, or any time before. Like Rupert said.
Okay.
But
So-
this implies, though, that you wouldn't be using that generic personal meeting code. You'd actually have to schedule your meetings.
And you can't
That's what we were
schedule a
saying.
personal. No, Leland said he schedules personal meetings. Didn't you say that?
Yeah, as far as scheduling, hold on a second. I'm going to see what it does if I do this. 'Cause again, I don't normally need to use this. So we have host video off, participant video off. So we're letting them in 5 minutes before start time. I'm just going to do a quick meeting here. And I'll set it up.
Okay, here's a note. Custom join before limits cannot be used with your PMI
Yeah.
and cannot be utilized when using end-to-end encryption.
Well, there
Okay.
you go.
I
And that
think
makes
That doesn't work.
I think in general your first approach might be to, particularly if you're on a paid account, to see if
Yeah, that's not
Zoom
going to
can
work.
migrate your PMI ID to a scheduled event, because then you'll get, I think it then opens up some of these possibilities for you.
If I schedule one for what? Where are we at? I'll make it 350, I guess.
And it sounds like that then is a account-wide setting, not a settings specific to each meeting.
So basically, I'm reading through the link that I shared there. You actually go to schedule for your individual meeting. And under advanced options, that's where you'll find allow participants to join any time, and you set the time, 5, 10, 15, or any time.
I'm just going to see if I can.
So, and my experience is when you do that, it creates a unique link for that meeting.
Right.
Tell me I'm wrong on that.
So that's for a scheduled meeting. And so far today, I'm hearing that your PMI can never be scheduled.
No, I'm doing that right now.
Oh,
I'm
you're
actually
scheduling?
but I'm looking for it to ask me under security for a passcode or waiting room or require authentication. And it's not asking me for either at the moment, but I'm about to hit save. So I'm scheduling this meeting for 3. I'm going to make it 4 o'clock because by the time we actually get there, we'll see where it's at. So save that. And now I have a meeting at 4 o'clock in the passcode with, looks like security is, there's passcode waiting room requires authentication to join are all X'd and grayed out. So there's nothing requiring that. Here's the invite. I'll put it in the chat.
Since I'm sitting on another machine, can you just tell me the numbers?
Oh, they're right here. Yeah. Sorry, that's not, where did that come from?
I don't know, but
my IP. I don't know where that came from.
I'm ready to start hacking.
I thought that was tonight's winning lottery numbers, but
I did not take the invitation copy like it should have. Okay, hold on. Try this again. All right. So being that it's 3:49, no one should be able to get in there until let me change that to like 15 minutes, maybe. It'll be 5:02 before anyone can get in. So another 5 minutes. See if anyone can get into that link yet. Because it says on this end, I have to start the meeting. I'm just curious if you guys can get in there. Because I have attendees can join ahead of time.
It says waiting for the host to start the meeting.
Okay, now
Leland Best's personal meeting room.
Yep. And in about 5 minutes, it should open the doors for the meeting ahead of time so that you guys can at least go sit in the Zoom before I actually start it. But we'll see.
I'll just
According to the
leave that
text,
set on the
that's
side, and I'll look at it when it's time.
Because I'm not
So
actually in the meeting yet.
So I just want to recap that this link, that's your personal meeting ID.
That's not my personal meeting ID. That's actually an account
Well,
built by Sage and Grant's group. So that's an account that I use for all the recordings I do for his events.
but is it
Okay.
the
The borrowed
PMI?
account.
Is it the
Yeah, I'm
PMI
borrowed.
of that account?
I'm not the owner of this account. No.
Is it the PMI though? Is it the
Yeah,
PMI
that's the
number?
PMI. That's the
Okay.
number.
Wow,
So it is somebody's
this is
PMI.
cool.
So we'll see.
Okay, so how about we work on something else until this? Oh, is it going to happen at 50? 12:50?
5 more minutes. And I'm
Oh.
not sure if I can change that on the fly to where it would actually.
I don't
Like,
think you
open it up
can once
soon.
you've. Well,
once
maybe
you
you
can.
can. We could check that out too.
Yeah. Oh, it says allow participant. Yeah. Okay. So the X to join at any time is out. All it says is, yeah, it doesn't actually specify the 5 minutes I gave it. Let me see if
I
can
think is
edit
that is that an account wide setting though, or is that specific to that meeting?
Oh, wait, I have options I can show. Oh, look at that. So even under that, when you schedule the meeting, here, I can make this easier for you guys. Let me, oh, I can't show my
Share
screen over there. It's a different machine.
Why? Oh, different. Yeah.
Well, what I've discovered is if you go back to the meeting to edit it, down at the bottom, there's another option set that you can hide or show that allows you to allow the participants to join at any time. It's a checkbox, but that's the only selection choice it gives you. It doesn't give you the 5, 10, 15 minute selection. So if I hit it now and save it, now you guys should be able to come in to the meeting itself, according to what it's saying.
Mine still says waiting, but then it's been saying
Refresh your
waiting, so
browser.
maybe
Yeah,
I
just
have
refresh
to.
your browser real quick.
It's not a
Try to
browser.
rejoin the meeting and see if it puts you into a
Leave and
different
come
space.
back.
Yeah, you may be in like a
Okay.
limbo.
Oh, no, it's doing it now. It's connecting.
Okay, cool.
This meeting is being recorded by the host or a participant.
So you're in the room now.
I'm all alone in the room.
Okay.
Just
and I'm not.
me.
I'm nowhere near it. I'm still looking at the back end of Zoom. I've never entered the room. So
So
can
it did,
start
it turned, it started itself without you being there.
but it's not
And then-
running per se. It's not a started meeting because I'm looking at this end and it says start this meeting. Now let's
Now
see what
Rupert's
happens
in here
before.
with me.
The meeting has
Cool.
started. We're in there, yeah.
We're in there, yeah. And I'm
Now,
going
can
to
you guys
participate.
communicate?
And
Can you talk?
Yeah.
I'm not doing that because it would squeal at you, but I will for a second.
Oh, I get. Yeah, let's mute one or the other would be fine. Because I'm not
Okay,
going to come
here we
in
go.
yet. I won't actually enter until after 4 to see what happens.
Okay, so at this point in the participants list, I do have a little button that says claim host. And it does open the spot where I could put in the number.
Well, there you go.
So this
that's
sounds
really all
like
you needed.
this is going to work for us.
Yeah. And see, I don't have a claim host number for you on this one, so
Well, no, I don't want to.
I
Thank you
could,
very
but
much.
I'd have to go. Yeah, I'm not going to do it on this one.
Okay, so that's good.
Cool. So now we all know.
Okay,
I wasn't sure either because, like I said, normally we lock these out completely so that attendees don't arrive ahead of time and are like constantly asking questions and filling the chat with what do we do next? What's this and what's that? We would rather wait until the event actually starts before we bring anybody in. But sometimes we want to get like a couple of TDs in the room, but doing that opens it up for the attendees as well.
so right now I know you did a whole bunch of different things in there. Right now, did you have the room scheduled to open at something 55?
No, I had the room scheduled to open at 4. And with that, and that's his Eastern time, sorry.
That's okay.
4 Eastern, and I set it to allow you guys in originally within 5 minutes of that time.
That's
But
it.
then I went back to rather than waiting because that's still a minute away. I actually went and edited the meeting that I had already created, and at the very bottom there is a setting that says additional options. And when you open that, because it's hidden, you have to see it and show it. Once you show it, then there's a checkbox to say allow participants to enter at any time. I checked that so that you guys could get in right away.
So that doesn't solve our problem.
Yes, it does.
You
Could have
if
just
it
let
says-
that button go. I can do this. We'll prove it. I'll just reschedule the meeting for 4:05, or it's still 4 o'clock. So here, let's do this. I'll uncheck that box and see if you guys can still get in real quick. You may be able to. Leave the meeting.
We're in now. We'll have to
Go ahead
leave
and
the
leave.
meeting.
Yep, go ahead and leave.
I've left.
And I've left.
And I'll close. I'll save this. I'm going to make it 4:01 actually, because we're a little ahead of schedule here. 4:01.
And then you can allow us in 10 minutes. You can allow us 10 minutes ahead.
Oh, you can't even do. Yeah. All right. Let's do that. Well, let's see. This should work. So it's not allowing you in at any time, but you should still be able to get in. So try to get in now. Because I'd saved it with 5 minutes ahead of time on the back end.
It says waiting for the host to start this meeting.
Okay, now let me double check
So,
the settings.
If you leave it at that and don't allow people to come in ahead of time, just leave it as it is. Let's see what happens.
Yeah, I'll leave this
That's what I
spinning,
gotta
waiting. Yeah.
Go ahead, Robert.
So I'll just leave it on this waiting to see whether it will auto join when the time window.
Sorry, I can't hear you. You're a little quiet.
Okay. I'm just going to leave it spinning here. I'm waiting to join.
Oh, yours is spinning?
Yeah.
Yes, so is mine. So we're just waiting for it to happen. So let's just
Yeah,
leave
I'm
it,
looking.
leave it be for a bit.
Well, I have it at allowing them to join 5 minutes ahead of time. And that means from this point on, you guys should be able to join because it's set for 4 p.m. So anyone that hits that link now should, according to what it says, be able to join the webinar. And it may have to refresh again. It could be a matter of a cache. in
It's
the
still
browser.
waiting. It's still waiting,
Yeah,
but
so
that's
it's-
okay.
Yeah.
But it
So
just
it's-
says waiting for host to start.
Yeah. And I went out and started and tried to get in again. It's still saying the same thing. So let's just leave it. Let's just leave it sit
Yeah, see what happens. At
and
4.
see what happens. Yeah.
Weird though. It should have let you.
For your large meeting, Lois, do you find that of those hundreds of people, most have their cameras on and that you need to keep an eye on them?
So you got to understand, this is a Quaker meeting for worship. And Quakers are used to sitting in a room, not saying anything, just looking at all the faces around them. So way more than half have their videos on. I would say 80%, maybe more than that, because you've got this screen full of faces of other Quakers, and that's how they want to work. And so it's an unusual meeting, but
And so if you and some of the other co-hosts are sort of responsible for flicking through the pages of people to look at people's cameras, if you have the 48 view, then you're flicking through several pages.
seven pages or so. And so we've learned really quickly to do that wonderful trick, which I assume you all know about, which is find a person who does not have their video on, click in their square and hide non-video participants. Okay. And so then you only see faces, and then go immediately up to view and show non-video participants. The faces stay in the same place, and all of the non-faces are at the end. So, another 30 people come in and most of them have faces. You do the same thing and they jump to the front. So you don't have to drag people around anymore, and you don't have to scroll through all 7 pages because the last 2 are just no videos. So a good
I'm surprised
technique.
it took them that long to figure that one out.
No, what do you mean? It didn't take me that long.
No, I don't mean you. I mean, it's for Zoom to do something about the fact that we had to chase people with video on 3 screens in rather than have all the video show up at the top of the screen for it. It would have been kind of easy to pull off.
Well, I actually figured it out by accident, because I had hid all non-video participants, and then someone said, there's someone over there that they don't have their video on, but they have their hand up, and I'm going, I don't see anything. Oh, well, I've got mine. So then I put them back in, and all of a sudden they were all together, and I went, that's a cool trick. I like that one. So
I
Where we
was just
at?
using
Oh, I
recently
got an
the
exclamation point here.
it's still spinning for me.
I have a passcode or a waiting room.
Whose
On
phone's
the
ringing?
ready to start mode here.
that's Leland's phone.
Okay,
No, not me. My phone isn't ringing. It's off. I always mute
I
mine.
think that was Bill. I just muted Bill.
Okay.
The Zoom room I have back here, I have 3 screens on it, and actually in a Zoom meeting, you can have gallery spanned over 3 monitors with up to 48 participants on each, which means you can see 150 people at once,
Cool.
which is
That
very
works.
nice.
So you're just putting page 1, page 2, page 3? Or is Zoom doing that for you?
Zoom is doing it. You
Zoom
specify when you set up the Zoom room, you say you say what you want each monitor to do, and if you specify each monitor as gallery, it just doesn't replicate the gallery; it extends the gallery.
Cool. And if you don't have a Zoom room, you can do the same thing by having 3 computers with 3 instances of free accounts logged on, and I'm on page 1 and you're on page 2.
You can.
That's annoying, though. Then
You can.
it's like,
But-
and which button do I push to?
Right. Unless you're using the host follow video order, whatever that is, then in theory, not every client's page 1, page 2, page 3 will be exactly the same. There might be some variants.
They'll be close.
Close. Yeah.
Yeah, no, when we set this up and we decided we would have co-hosts doing that, we thought about that, and Julie kept saying, well, assign somebody to page 1 and page 2, and I'm going, they're changeable, and it's not necessarily the same in the same order. Some people have 25 on a screen and 49, so we just cruise.
Yeah.
Isn't it after the hour already,
Should
Leland?
be, so it didn't let you in, right?
No.
It's still spinning. I'm going to stop and
See if you can
attempt
go
to come
back in.
in.
Yeah. Because I'm still not in the meeting myself. I just have it set up ready to go.
No, it still says waiting.
Yeah.
Really?
No, it's
So,
connected.
let me go back here.
Okay.
Let me
still
go back
waiting.
here.
Yeah,
So if I go
waiting for
back
the
and I
host.
set it to edit that.
So it looks like the timed thing doesn't start without us,
It's
without
weird that
a
it doesn't,
host.
but then you change here to apply. Okay. After scheduling this meeting, the setting will you change here will apply to all scheduled meetings with the personal ID.
Oops.
So that's if you allow participants to join anytime, that reverts every meeting you have like that. And I would have to revert the setting. So
You don't want,
only
but you
thing I
don't
can
want
see, if I
to.
save it now, you guys should be able to go in. And it's not, I haven't started the meeting yet, even though it's already past 4:00.
Yes, it let me in.
And mine is still waiting because I haven't gone
Yeah,
back
go
and
back.
and tried to rejoin. And that's a good little tidbit to know too. If someone is waiting for you, I lied. It was just slow. It's coming on now.
Okay.
And
And
it's
now I guess
recording.
that's not an issue so long as your meeting is scheduled for an appropriate period of time, then they shouldn't be able to join anytime. Well, no, could be any time in the day. That's what I'm worried about is if you have a
Yeah,
meeting scheduled for 2 to 4, can somebody come in at 3 a.m. and
Yeah.
just sit there
yeah.
for 12
Okay,
hours?
so the or they, I think they were just using it as a gang hangout.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let me
Okay.
start the meeting, see
So,
what it does to you guys. You guys are in there now, right?
Yes.
but the meeting's already going.
That's the thing. I haven't started it. I don't know why it still gives me the opportunity to start it. So if I hit start, I just want to see what happens on your
Okay.
end. I'm going to open the meeting and I should just join the meeting you guys are in. Yeah, there we are. Okay. So,
You just started. Yeah, it says now you're the host.
okay. So I took over host. So we should have checked
No, there
before
was
that.
no
There
host
was no host.
There was no host
No.
at all.
because we didn't have the host key. We
But if
didn't.
you had that, then it should
If-
work for you. So,
Okay, if I can get in the meeting, I can get the host key, I become the host. Then
Yeah.
when the actual owner comes in, when Julie comes in, she gets a
you're the
message saying, "Do you want to take over host or do you want to stay as a co-host?" And she gets to
Should.
choose.
yeah, should.
That's what
Suppose they
happens.
try that first. Yeah, that would be your first bet. And then just schedule the meeting for a 3-hour period or however long it's going to be at the appropriate time, but
No.
allow guests to enter whenever they want because they won't be able to really do anything but sit around and chit chat.
Yeah, well, that's what I don't want them to do.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So this is the scheduling the meeting for a particular time doesn't supersede letting people in, and so it really is.
Doesn't
This
seem-
isn't changing anything for us
I don't know why it wouldn't though. That's what's weird.
because you gave it specific permission to let people in.
Yeah, the first time I gave it specific permission too, but it didn't let you in. That's why I'm wondering if just changing it and reverting it to the allow any time completely corrupted the first scheduled meeting that I made with the 5-minute entry period. So I'd have to do it again and see.
So I
should have
don't.
never opened it.
5-minute entry period did anything because it certainly didn't let us in.
Yeah, it didn't seem to.
Yeah.
But I could have triggered that, let them in at any time, like right at the window and not known it because I was just firing it at whim. Who knows?
Yeah, you did that before the time that you opened the meeting and we got in. Okay, so I don't need to worry about a timed meeting because I can't do anything if it's a PMI, I can't do anything that will not let people in and still let me in to become the host.
Yeah. Unless you check into the user management roles, that might give you with an
Yeah.
admin role on the back end, it might give you the option to, even schedule the meeting for her and everything. So that way you would start as the host. You would be there ahead of her and she could just come in later.
No, you don't understand. It's a 7-day-a-week thing. I need days off. So
Oh, I
Monday
get
and
it.
Friday I'm not there. Saturday and Sunday she's not there. And the rest of the time we're both there. So we have to have it so that either of us can get in and get
Yeah,
host.
and that's what I'm hoping the roles would do because if they gave you
I'll try
admin
that.
role and even owner, you only get one member to that. And this is what I'm referring to if you haven't been there. It's on your side panel of the Zoom US. Go down past personal, do admin, and under user management, you'll see users, groups, roles, and contacts. And that's where you can go to the roles. add a role. And that would be obviously the admin of the account has to add a role for another admin to join as an admin. So she would have to do it for you unless you have access to the account.
But I don't think admin has the right to start a meeting because an admin isn't a licensed user.
Really?
Yeah, an admin is an administrator. You get to go in and administer users and set settings and like an IT.
Certainly not a host in any way.
Yeah, it's not to be an
Good point.
alternative host is the role that I think you need to be able to start a meeting on somebody else's behalf, and that I believe needs to be a licensed user.
And that's not in this area, by the way. The role management that you just took me to.
Oh, it's not in there?
So
Oh,
I
it's
have
in
billing
Chrome.
contact and an email and an additional email address, but that's just billing contact. That's not any roles that I can see.
Yeah, then that's probably for a pro account, is what I'm guessing.
I am a pro account.
Here, let me show you my screen.
Pro is the basic, right?
Oh, you know what? Did you take on the new feature set that was offered up for user management by Zoom in the past couple of weeks?
Oh, they're like the new
'Cause
admin experience thing.
Yeah, the new user management experience, they call it. Some people may still be on the old user management experience, and some are trying out the new one that they can roll back if they want to. If you weren't asked to participate on that, then it might not even be a feature in your account yet.
I wasn't asked. Well,
It was a pop-up.
I
that came
don't
up
know
with the
about
pop-up.
it. If it
It popped right in my face and said, "Do you want to try this new admin manager for role
and
management?"
I'd probably go, "There's a fly, swat it." You know,
I'm kind of like that too.
you know,
don't like
I got
pop-ups.
how many windows open and something just popped up, swat it.
Yeah, I don't like pop-ups either.
Yeah.
I'll have to play with that a little bit. It's got me wondering now.
Okay.
Because we've always wanted to have a good way to get TDs into an event that's timed prior to the event firing up so that we don't let attendees in, accidentally.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
But now you've got a back room.
backstage
but-
on
Backstage.
on webinar. On
Yeah.
webinar.
Oh, only on webinar events or on all webinars?
Good question.
It seems you need the webinar events license, but once you have that, you can
do you?
use it. You can use it for a plain webinar. I think that seems to be the indication.
And is it the owner of the webinar who's going to be doing that?
It would be the, I guess it would be the host or the alternative host could start the backstage, and then you could invite your panelists. I do know that you need to. Well, I guess with practice session in webinar, you needed to invite your panelists specifically. You couldn't.
So they
admit
had a
them-
separate URL.
Right. Yeah. You couldn't admit them as attendees and then promote them into the practice session. So it might be something similar with backstage. I don't know.
So, Leland, are we done with this second?
Yeah, I
thing?
left the other meeting. I
I'll just-
assigned host to you on the way out just to see what it was going to do to you.
I'm host.
Yeah, and that's the other thing I was wondering. That I'll just be honest. Sometimes when we're dealing with other people's accounts, they just give us access to their account. Whether that means adding an additional email onto the account that we can access, or just telling us what we need to know to log in, and then we go in and we have that control so that we can have it ahead of time and just know that we're at a trust level really with the person that owns the account.
Oh yeah.
And we do that a lot.
So I'm thinking that maybe in another week or so, Birding with Lois will maybe have a back room. I don't know.
Right.
Because it's not my webinar. It's from the DVE store.
Gotcha.
So it's Guy's webinar.
Yep.
So
Man, I wish I
So, Leland, can I ask a question?
could. Absolutely.
When you configured this, I'm not seeing where I put in time. I have an option to allow participants to join anytime,
Mhm.
but not
Yeah,
like
and
5, 10, 15.
You don't have that drop? Yeah, that's under when you actually go to the back end settings, where we were mentioned having to set the switch to allow them to join early. Once you turn on that switch, then you'll see the timer choice on a pull down. And that's under,
So it's in settings under meeting.
yeah, it's under, once you schedule your meeting, where it allows you to allow participants to join before host, which is right under the audio type.
So it's in the meeting
Yeah.
thing on the left.
On the back end, go to schedule meeting.
Okay, when you say the
security.
back end, I'm on my Zoom portal. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, not the
Okay.
client, but the portal. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So under meetings.
Under schedule meeting.
Okay. So on the left, I see profile, meetings, webinars, personal contacts, recording settings, user management, device management, room management, account management, and advanced.
Oh, you know what? You got
what
to
do
go
I click?
under settings above account profile. So you've got profile, meetings, webinars, personal contacts, recording settings. Go to settings.
Yeah.
And then under that, you'll see schedule meeting
Nope.
to the right of that.
Nope.
Just to the right of that. Really?
I have tabs that say meeting, recording,
Yeah.
audio conferencing.
Underneath the meeting tab. Sorry. It's just right of the button you're linked on right now. So under the meeting tab, you should see security, schedule meeting, in meeting.
Nope. I have
Really?
security, require all meetings are secured with one security option, waiting room, meeting passcode, personal meeting passcode, require passcode.
So you can't schedule a meeting from there.
No, I have to go to my client to schedule a meeting as far as I know.
Wow.
Oh, wait a
okay.
minute. Hold on. Up at the top, it does have, at the very, very top, there's host a meeting, join a meeting, schedule a meeting. Maybe that will help.
No, well, it might take you to the same place. Yeah.
Yes.
No, that's not the
That
same
gives me
place, though.
to, it's not the same place. It says it's
No.
under meetings, but it says schedule meeting.
Let's do this. Just go to the meeting tab under settings and scroll down, because really all that is, those sub menus are just a breakpoint in the scroll so that it can get you to that point of entry.
Nope.
What do you have below security?
Why don't I just share screen? Wouldn't that be easiest?
Well, I think it'd be better if I did. That way you'd be able to see what I'm doing.
Well, I know, but then you could, because you have a bigger account than I do. I just have a plain old pro account.
Yeah, that's why I want to know if this stuff's even in yours, because if it's not,
So-
there's no sense looking for it.
Right, exactly. So,
go
okay, if I
ahead.
share
Tell me
screen,
what you got. I don't
Alright.
know who's got control. I think
I
Rupert
do.
did. Rupert left.
I've got control. I'm a co-host. Okay, so here's my, if I can get this opened up, here's my window.
Okay.
And if I go to meetings, this
Nope,
is what
go
I
to
see.
settings.
If I go to settings, and then I go to meeting, this is what I see.
Yeah, scroll down.
But if I go up here to schedule a meeting,
Nope, I just want you to scroll down. Okay, whoa, too fast. You went right there. It's right there.
schedule
Allow
meeting.
participants to join before host. It's right where your cursor is, just below
Yeah.
it. So
Uh-huh.
now check that box,
Yep.
and now you can set when they can join. And that's the choice.
Okay.
And I would say try that, because we did an ad hoc of it to see if it would work, and I made the mistake of going back and editing the scheduled meeting and allowing people to enter at any time before we really tested the 5-minute thing.
Okay. But so this is for a scheduled meeting.
That is a setting on the back end for when you schedule meetings, what the defaults will be.
Right.
So this
but,
is where you
but
set
this
all
is
your
but scheduled meeting is not a PMI.
Yeah, it can be. A scheduled meeting can be a PMI.
All right, let me go up and schedule a meeting.
Yep.
Schedule a meeting. My meeting. Da 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 da. Use the PMI.
Yep.
Wait a minute. Where am I? Why has that got that? Oh, it's that PMI. Okay. All right.
Now, because it's a free account.
It's not a free. It's a paid. Is
Okay,
this a
well,
free? Is this a free account? What? Where am I? I'm in. You're right. That's a free account. I should change to my other account. Sorry about
Yeah,
that.
because it won't allow you to open a meeting without a personal passcode or a security feature unless it's a paid account.
Come on.
You love this. It's like me, I have 12 emails skinning at Zoom.
What do you
Start
mean?
creating aliases. It's even now it may kick you if you go and log into another Zoom account. You may get booted out of this one.
I'm not going into a meeting.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you're right. So this
Okay.
is the account that you would do it in, right?
So, well, no, this is my account. I don't, she's
okay.
not here.
Gotcha.
I wish she were here, but she's not here. She
So
has
just try
much to do with.
scheduling one now and see if you can do one with your passcode.
Okay, so I can
without
do
an
schedule a meeting there or
Same
here.
thing. Should be the same thing.
Okay, so there's a meeting and use personal passcode.
And now
Okay.
see if you uncheck passcode, you should be able to uncheck any of those so that there is no passcode required. And
You
it
must
says
select at least
one.
one option.
Then there's something, go up to reoccurring, check reoccurring. I want to see if that changes it. There it is. Now, can you uncheck the waiting room?
You must select at least one option.
Wow. Mine, see, that's the thing. The account I just did that on from Grant's account did not stop me from doing that.
So you
So-
opened it up with no password and no,
Yeah, it allowed
Nothing?
me to create a meeting with none of the above.
okay.
My meeting has none of them. No passcode, no waiting room, no require authentication to join. They're all X'd and grayed out as security features. So, and I don't know if this is an enterprise account. It's a possibility that theirs is. It says it's licensed, so it's not. I don't know if it's pro or not. Let me see.
I'm going to just chime in.
Yeah, go ahead, Bill.
So I did create a meeting, and I selected the lobby, and I was still able to select, let people in later.
When you
I don't know. I haven't tested it, so I don't know how that's going to behave. But
lobby is in
That's what I
events,
did.
right? Or lobby is not in a
no,
meeting.
in the meeting. So
That's a waiting
in the
room? Is that
meeting.
what
So
you
if you go
mean?
back, I do. I'm sorry. I do mean waiting
Okay,
room.
because they
I'm-
also have a lobby in
my
a
mistake.
different place. Okay.
Yeah. No, my
So-
mistake. It's
So
it's
you had a
the
waiting
we didn't
room
check.
instead of a,
instead of password.
okay, so what will happen is that unless Julie goes into the thing because she owns it, if I go into to the meeting, there's no place in the waiting room for me to get past the waiting room. I can't claim host.
Even if we let people check the box that says let them join before.
Let them join, but then there's a pass. Then there's a
Yeah.
waiting room,
The-
so
the-
they'll get into the waiting room.
The setting of waiting room and join at any time. You can't have, it's one or the other, I believe.
That's what I would think. If
Yeah,
it's
you-
joining
Yeah, the
in
UI
you can use
isn't
waiting room.
very well laid out then because it enables me to have both enabled. But I'll say that their support docs suggests that you can't have waiting room. That it's either or.
I think it's either or, but even if we had a waiting room, it'd be a waiting room. No, that's not right. Because I know that we had it so that Julie did not go into the meeting, so she was not there, she was not host. And I was trying to get into the meeting, she changed various settings. And when she had waiting room on, I couldn't get past it.
Weird.
Okay, I think we've talked this one far beyond we need to.
Yeah, it would have to be tested a lot more to see what happens each time.
I see Laura joined us and then she went away. I think we bored her. Hey, Laura, are you there? Did you need to have a question or anything?
No, ma'am. I just happened to be off work this afternoon and was listening as I'm doing some other stuff in the background. I jumped
Cool.
into Zoom instead of YouTube. The only comment I wanted to make was I heard you guys talking about virtual backgrounds earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody in this world, I think, knows where I stand on virtual backgrounds. I don't think I need to say it again.
Mhm. Yeah. And we don't blame you one bit, Laura. I know others. I used to be married to someone with epilepsy, and it can be a very detrimental experience for sure.
We're streaming to YouTube, so I'm not going to say much, but my comment would be go back and look at our guest from today
Oh, really?
from office hours. I'm not saying another word.
Gotcha. Will do.
How has everybody been finding the auto updates feature? It's been in Zoom. It's been a while since they released it. Is everybody using that or electing
do.
to?
I haven't been in there in a while though.
Yeah, finding it's reliable.
Yeah, so far.
Yeah.
It's quick. I think it's a lot better than having to go chase down files. Just sit here and let it do its thing each time you come in. But it's really only detrimental to those that don't have, that have features that might change that could blow their workflows that are
Right.
already, set up in through the API.
Yeah.
So is that something you set and you just tell it to do auto update, or is that something that when you go to a meeting that has to have something newer and it says, stop, you can't come in unless you do this, it does it? Is it truly auto update?
Yeah, I think those two things are slightly separate. If you have auto update enabled in your client, you will unlikely ever encounter a meeting that requires you to be at a higher version because you'll already be auto updated to something pretty recent.
And where would one find that auto update
It's in the Zoom
thing?
in settings under in settings general at the bottom, Zoom updates. Automatically keep Zoom desktop client up to date at either slow
okay.
or fast pace.
Okay, all right. So that's on.
And in my experience, when it does run through an auto update, it tells you that it has
Successfully updated?
yeah, like when I come back to Zoom, sometimes it tells me that it's already updated itself, or that there's a update ready to be, that it's downloaded and it's ready to install.
I had forgotten I did that, so I frequently go over there and push the button that says check for updates and says, oh, you're good.
Right.
Now I know why.
I haven't seen yet though. The two options are slow or fast. Slow says faster updates, better stability. Fast says try the newest features and updates. I don't quite know exactly what versions that locks you to. Does it keep it is slow 2 versions behind, or exactly at what point slow becomes the current version.
Oh, I see. It's not speed of download, which is what I thought it was. You're
No, no.
saying it's cautionary, don't go quite
Exactly,
to the
yeah.
bleeding edge.
Exactly, yeah. So fast, I think, is just must be whatever the true latest version is. I don't think it's like advanced. It's just absolutely current. And slow, I just don't understand what slow is. Is it 1 version back, 2 versions back, a point version back, or what? I'm sure maybe it's documented somewhere, but that might be the only troublesome if everybody thinks they're on auto update, but maybe some people are on slow, and then you, like Leland says, if you've got a feature mismatch between your participants or even your hosts, worst case scenario. But I've been finding it works quite well, and no, it must work in Zoom's favor. I know that a while back, a few months ago, they were considering only supporting versions within a 9-month window. So if you had anything older than 9 months, it wasn't going to be supported. They ditched that plan, as far as I can see, and went with the auto update feature instead, or maybe not instead, but around the same time. I guess that they were hoping that would mitigate a lot of the older versions lingering around.
Well, they did at one point say after a certain date the older versions wouldn't work, and that was true. The older versions, because in our exercise class, which is mostly seniors, not everybody updated, and there were a couple of people who they couldn't get in,
Right.
and so they were calling me and going, I can't get in. Did you update? No. Well, okay, here's how you update.
Now, was that a setting in, because
It's a long time ago.
right, each host in each account, you can require that people are up to a certain version in order to join your meeting for whatever reason you might want that to be.
Yeah, and understand, I am dealing with people who are one person who has one account to get into one thing. So it's like all this business stuff, doesn't affect me.
Got it. Well, guys, I got to split. I'd love to hang out.
Yeah, but I gotta go.
We'll have to try that again though, because I'm obviously, we got waiting room options. What'd you leave us there, Bill? I gotta see that.
So I'm like a dog with a bone. I'm trying to figure out how to do this in meetings because I've usually used webinars for this. And this was under waiting room options. It's a screenshot from the Zoom settings page. And it implies there that users invited during the meeting by the host or co-host will bypass the waiting room. So if there's a way to invite people, they could bypass it. The other options are like users not in your account. I'm wondering, like on my account, I could add users, and would that automatically, if they're using the same email, have them bypass the waiting room? Because to me, I don't want to let the audience in, but I want my support people.
When you the low tech way to do that is just to tell your people before you start to enter the meeting, put star space and your name, and that will pop them all up to the top. So you can have a waiting room of 500 people, and you would still see the ones with the stars at the top of the alphabet.
That is very tricky though, because there is no obvious way to set your name before you enter the meeting.
Sure there is. Absolutely. I do it all the time.
If you have a logged in client, it's not.
No, it's in the join window.
Yeah, before you click the join button. Now, if you're coming from a link, that's
Link,
true.
right, okay, right.
If you're using a link, that doesn't
Right.
work. But if you've got a half a dozen people who are on
just
staff,
use- yeah, okay.
they can just come in from the client, and that works.
That would work.
And
Good catch.
it's got a history for them, so you can come back into the same time, and you don't have to remember or retype.
And can that radio button's one choice or another for who should go? It's not a on off for any of them, right?
What radio button?
For the waiting room options,
Yeah.
or it says who should go to the waiting room. It's a choice of one of the three. You can't turn them off or on.
Yeah, it's a radial option. And then the checkbox for users invited during the meeting, that's a checkbox on or off.
And that only difference there is interesting because that link is a straight link to the room. So that would be another thing that you could keep people out with, just to bypass the waiting room, be to share that link after you made the show to the hosts that you needed to come in first.
Is
And then
that
they would
true
bypass
though?
the waiting room.
If you've got a waiting room going, does that, you're talking about the link that you get up in that little gold shield at the
Yes,
upper left,
yes.
right? Okay.
Yep. Or through the participants tab, whichever way you go to find that link, because there's two places you can get it.
Okay, so
That's what
I've
it's
copied
saying.
the
That's-
link,
Yep.
and
that's
you've got
that.
waiting room on, correct?
Yep.
I'm
It
going to
is right
leave
away,
and
yes.
come back. You've got waiting room on, Rupert, right?
You should hear
On
it.
here, yes, yep.
Okay, I'm going to go and come back, and I'll see if I jump in or if I go to the waiting room.